introduced 1871 already, so I'm going to skip that one. We're in 1871, we like 1871. Usually they'll probably have a record going forward. The other one is Verbella, and actually Caroline, I don't know, is Cam or somebody from Verbella in the space to introduce it?
I don't know that they are. Does anyone see him? I haven't seen her, but I can just say that a little, if you want to, I can say a little bit about Verbella, unless you want to go ahead and speak about him now.
I'll do it really quick since they're not there to introduce themselves. So Verbella is basically a virtual campus space, virtual workspace. You're seeing it right now. That's one of the rooms in the Verbella Open Campus. They also have private campuses. They have private team suites. So if you have a company and you want to have a virtual office space, you can do it there. It's really cool technology. I encourage people to check it out. Obviously, you're going to see a little bit about how it works right now because we're using it. I do want to thank Verbella. They basically provided us a virtual home for over 2 years at this point. But with that, I also have to talk about some of our partners, one of which Caroline, you're definitely going to introduce because that would be XR Women.
Yeah, we're excited to be partnered with ARVR Chicago. XR Women, we now have actually about 1,500 women on our LinkedIn page, and we actually do events every Wednesday on the island portion of the Verbella campus. And we have a really vibrant community of women all across the spectrum, from film and production to XR, VR, and augmented reality. Everything soup to nuts, and it's a really incredible group of women, and they are doing all kinds of speaking gigs. We're really interested in also helping as many women to both find their place and also elevate the work they're doing, and be able to collaborate with other communities and worlds like ARVR Chicago. So if you haven't checked us out, please do. We welcome allies as well. Like I said, we meet every week on the island portion of the Verbella campus, and we have a room kind of like this one on Verbella. So thanks so much for having me, and look forward to seeing many more of you with XR. Thanks.
And our other partners, thankfully to one of them for a last-minute assistance of IGDA, Independent Game Developers Association of Chicago. They actually provided us a replacement in-person presenter, I think within 1 day's notice. We'll be on the stage in just a moment. 2112, which is Chicago's Creative Entrepreneurship Center, and VR Motion Learning, who was actually in Chicago last week at IIT doing a demonstration of their tennis trainer, which might seem like a virtual reality game, but it's really a whole lot more like real tennis practice. They had IIT's tennis coach in there doing it, and it was a little bit intense. But with that, we are going to get to today's topic, and I will say again, we do have a couple big announcements to make at the end of the event. Always a fun teaser. But first, I'm going to toss it to Caroline to introduce our first presenter, Patrick.
Thank you so much, Matt. So we're really thrilled tonight to have with us Patrick O'Shaughnessy from Cooperative Reality, and I know that I won't do justice to really giving everyone a sense of his background, so I'm going to go ahead and let you speak about the work that you're doing. Patrick, thank you so much for coming tonight. Take it away.
Patrick, you might be muted.
Okay, sorry about that. Hi everyone, wish I could be there in person. Unfortunately, I had a positive case in my household, so I decided not to bring that to you all in person. So, but I am Patrick O'Shaughnessy. I run a company called Cooperative Reality that I founded in 2009. And are we doing slides now or just intros?
If you want, we're doing your presentation now, so if you want me to switch slides, just say my slide.
Oh, I can see that you had the slides up. Do you have my slide up?
Yes, I do.
I can't tell what side you're on.
It's on the outside, Patrick, so if you look to your...
Oh, is it? Okay. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. Yes, this is me, and you can get us at patchreality.com. And go ahead to the next slide. Sorry. All right, so yeah. So as I said, we started in 2009. We do custom AR, VR development for pretty much most platforms, mobile headset, and the web. Lately, we've also been, for about the last 6 months, doing blockchain development at the intersection of XR. These are some of our clients. And when we're not doing client work, we like to do our own IP, and generally that's games. And I'll be talking about a couple of the ones that we've done today. And usually that's around like a new technology that's come out or something that we're particularly interested in. We like to do a deep dive just to really get our hands dirty and get a complete understanding. So to go to the next slide. The first application I'll be talking about is Art School Fight Club. It is a blockchain game on the Algorand blockchain. And I'll be talking a little more about that. If you scan that QR code, that'll take you to the website. And then the second one I'll be talking about is Epic Marble Run. And yeah, that one's a little tougher to you just search for Epic Marble Run in the App Store. You can scan that QR code to go directly if you have a phone, an iOS device with LiDAR capabilities. And if you go ahead and play the video on that, we can talk over the video to show these two games in action.
Okay, give me a second. When I show the video, they will not be able to see you anymore.
That's fine. I can't really see anything. Yeah, so Art School Fight Club, we started about 5 months ago. We chose the Algorand blockchain because, well, we looked at a lot of the different blockchains, but Algorand was the one that had the really fast transactions, and it's also actually carbon neutral. So what you're seeing here is our Pixel Studio tool, and the idea of this application is ultimately you will be able to paint pixel art onto t-shirts that can be put on and off of a 3D virtual character. What we start, the first version of this is the Pixel tool, and it maps your artwork onto a 3D easel. It has, and you can see, as we're painting here, we've got a bunch of different tools. Once you're done painting your artwork, you can choose the background color, choose the lighting, choose a snapshot that's going to show up on the blockchain in different marketplaces, and you can go ahead and mint. And you'll see once you hit mint, you can give it a title, give it a description, and all that data, all the 3D data and the 2D data, and the screenshots gets pushed up to IPFS, and we mint that to the blockchain as an NFT. And you'll see that the nice thing about Algorand is it's very quick. Once you mint, it takes just a few seconds. So then, once you've minted it, we have a number of views of your creation. You have some static views. You can also see it in 3D. You can actually play back the history of how that painting was made, which is kind of fun. And lastly, if you scan that QR code, you can see that painting in AR, and that's what we're showing here. So this is what your creation would look like. These are some creations that we actually commissioned from some well-known artists on the Algorand blockchain that already had a series of their own. As we were kickstarting the project, we're auctioning off these pieces. And we've had a lot of good uptake. I think we've done over 50 of these now. And actually, we just launched on Monday to the Pixel Studio tool. So that's exciting. This is a Unity tool that we created, a custom tool to mint our 3D characters. And this is an early version of the characters. We're still working on the traits and everything, but this is just a demo of that works. You put all the traits in, push a button, and out pop however many. If you want to mint 1,000, you can go ahead. And then for a hackathon, an Algorand hackathon, we took our Pixel tool, we took an off-the-shelf Turtles cute astronaut model, and these are NFTs on the blockchain, on the testnet, in 3D, using Croquet as a networking layer in the web browser, playing a sumo-type wrestling game. We're still working on the mechanics of the actual casual game, but that's the idea of, and if you could pause it there real quick. Is it possible? Alright, yeah, so So we're still working on the game mechanic, but the idea is to have a user-generated content mapped onto a 3D character that you can then play games. Right now, you can actually take those paintings that you did and have a Discord popularity contest in our Discord channel. So you can go ahead and continue the video. So the next game I want to talk about is Epic Marble. So this is a game when Apple came out with LiDAR cameras on their iPads. We said, all right, well, what would it be like to play a physics game in the real world? And this was the game that we created. It's the first game in the App Store that used the LiDAR cameras. Again, and you'll see a theme with our apps. We like the idea of user-generated content. We like the idea of playing in the real world. In Epic Marble, you choose your own challenge. You place at the beginning, at the start, place the finish, and the idea is to get as long a marble run as you can. And one of the unique things about that is we actually have a video leaderboard that shows all the videos of the highest scoring runs. So that's it. Those are the two games I wanted to talk about, and I'm really looking forward to the panel discussion with the rest of you all. Thank you very much.
Patrick,
You're welcome.
sorry, I might have circumvented the in-person applause, but yes. I'm sure that there are a lot of questions, and I'd love to, I don't know, the familiarity of this group with things like IPFS, but these are really forward-thinking ways of approaching the gaming mechanics, so I'm pretty excited about that. Thank you so much. That was
You're
helpful.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Matt,
Yeah,
I'll turn it over
we're
to you so that you can do your in-person speaker next.
Yeah, so up next we have one of our in-person speakers who's currently sitting out in the audience who is actually returning to the stage. He has been an in-person presenter previously, several years ago. Weird to think about that, but August, the floor is yours.
This go ahead and grab one of those mics. All right. I can see it. Okay. Yes, I do. I don't remember what's on those slides. Hi, guys. My name is August. Is that on?
It is now.
They're behind you.
Okay, great. Hi guys in the metaverse. That's so cool to see you guys. Hi Patrick. I haven't seen you in a couple years. Hi. Okay. Hi guys, my name is August. I'm the head of technology for a company called Mempoverse. Let's go to the next one. I don't know. I can't see those slides. And you know what? So the metaverse, we have our own metaverse. It's called the Mempoverse, right? And the whole idea behind this metaverse is to go online, play some video games, and interact with your friends. It all happens in a web browser. We're using this technology called pixel streaming. We're built on the Unreal Engine. Keep going. That's what it looks like. Yeah, it looks nice and pretty in there. But the whole idea behind the metaverse is you can buy one of our NFTs. If you buy one of our NFTs, that gets you into our little video game. And we're building mini games and branded experiences. So we've got various brands and companies coming in and building their own experiences inside of the metaverse. And we actually have, maybe we could show the trailer, the video.
Yep.
Let's do that now. So we built this trailer to kind of explain this. It doesn't really explain much about the experience itself, but it's more about the story. The story is our hero Xander builds this protective bubble around the city to protect them, protect the people from the evil Shotoku holdings. And yeah, let's just go watch this one. built this trailer in Unreal Engine 5, and we're also building our metaverse in Unreal Engine 5. And that kind of gives you an idea of what the theme is and the look of our metaverse is. We want it to be very rich and full of high detail, and that's why we're going with this pixel streaming method. So what happens with pixel streaming is we run the game up in a cloud server. We're using AWS for some of our services. We're using other third-party companies for some other services. But the game runs on a GPU server, and people log in a website through a web browser into the server, and they get their own one-on-one. They get their own dedicated connection to that server, and that server feeds them the video, and the web browser, feeds the server their inputs, like their mouse and keyboard inputs, as well as webcam and microphone and stuff like that. So people can. Next slide. That's a good slide. Yeah. So here's some of the artwork, the art breakdown that we've had. We've got a really great team of artists on our team. Oh yeah, I can talk about our rebirth collection. Next slide, please. Next slide again. So we are about to release a new NFT collection. It's called our rebirth collection. We're redoing all of the artwork from our original collection, and we've hired a really talented artist. I think he's from the Philippines. Next slide, please. And this is kind of what some of the NFTs will look like, or how it will work. Go ahead, next slide. That's pretty much it. Okay. Yeah. Any questions about the anniversary?
We'll get to Q&A at the end.
We'll get to Q&A at the end. We'll get you at the end.
Okay, awesome.
Okay. All right. That's it.
Okay, we are going back to virtual presenters for the next 2 in a row. Caroline, if you want to introduce Robin.
Sure. Well, for those of not Robin or seen the work that she does, you're in for a treat. And all I can say is that she's a rock star turned gamer. She's taken my XR training. She has spoken quite a bit around the circuit, but also she joined us at XR Women, and I got the chance to listen and see slides from her work. Please, Robin, take it away, tell us all about Freetown Games, and sorry if I mispronounced your company name, but yeah,
that is right on. Freetown Games and Freetown XR. Absolutely. Hi, I am Robin Mulder, the CEO. That's my PR out there. She's working it, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Next slide, please. So, 3Pound XR is an accelerator, development accelerator, and we aim to accelerate the XR ecosystem. How we're doing that is that we're partnering with subject matter experts, domain expertise, that sort of thing, to accelerate XR projects using our proprietary systems libraries and our expertise. That means everything, the entire umbrella. Business apps, experiences, games, it doesn't matter, under the covers, it's all code and it's all expertise in these systems and how we apply our knowledge. Next slide, please. I actually can't see what slide we're on right now, so I'm going to assume that we're looking at the 3Pound Games slide with Space Dragon and a variety of 4Pound. If that is correct, I'll just keep talking.
you know what, Robin, I'm so sorry. On this end of it, it is not, but is it on the main screen there?
Let me take a look around. I can't seem to.
Hey, Robin, if you click on one of the side screens, you should just be able to see a preview of it.
Yeah. Rocket. I see it. Okay, next slide, please. Awesome. So where we came from was a game company with the idea in mind that we wanted to make incredible immersive experiences. We started off building like libraries and movement systems with the first movement system on the Unity Asset Store, which has this massive amount of configure. Oh, do you want to fly? Click, click, click. Do you want to walk? Click, click, click. Boom, you're done. Piece of cake. It's really, really easy for you to get started in XR development with this system. And this grew and grew and grew into us having a powerful set of libraries of our own to build. Next slide, please. In 2018, we partnered with Bonby Park. They're the makers of Slime Rancher, and we made their VR playground. That's available today. It's on Steam. When you buy Slime Rancher, you actually get this for free. And it's just small experience. It's a good experience to kind of what's it like to convert an existing really popular property like this into VR. Because sometimes you don't think about things like, is there actually a back to this house? Sometimes there's not, and you gotta fix these sort of things. So they gave us a really good experience of what it's like to work with another company and take something that was already there and already really awesome and accelerate that and turn it into a VR property. Next slide, please. We also worked on Space Dragon back in the early days, and tying that back to our movement system, one of the movements is flying. And we're really into flying in VR because why would I walk if I can fly? I mean, really, I would do it right now if I could. Space Dragon is a game you fly around, and these two dragons are basically your arms of those two dragons, and you're on an epic adventure to save your mother from the evil AI, classic story, right? And you have to go and blow up lots of planets and blow up moons and consume these crystals. Super satisfying, extraordinarily fun, lots of explosions, and a lot more explosions. Next slide. This is a little bit more about game, a little bit of some of the art from the game. There's the creatures back there that you're fighting. This gives you an idea of the scale, and it's kind of hard to see on here. But if you look really, really close down there, you'll see that Space Dragon's over the left, but that's not really the scale of the Space Dragons. The scale of the Space Dragons is that little tiny circle, and these other guys are actually the scale. So that is the stuff that you're fighting. When you're flying next to that big dragon, it's huge. It's absolutely humongous. It's leveraging the real power of Vaxar. I can be anything. I can be anywhere. I can do anything. And all of these data points for us, it's very satisfying for us to make these incredible games. But it starts to plant those seeds about, what if we can help other people make these cool games? Let's play a little bit. Can you take me to the PDP of Space Dragon, and we'll pop that trailer up. This trailer is from the original version of Space Dragon, which we're now putting it out for the Oculus Quest sometime in the next month. Go ahead and pop that trailer out.
Sorry, I don't have a video link for you.
Okay, we can move on and come back to that or skip that one. Can you make sure they have a PDP up for Vault of Stars? That would be the good one to make sure we show. Let's go to the next slide. Vault of Stars is a game that we started, also does flying, but it also does body swapping. So you fly through the stars, you are a spirit of starlight, and you're not very strong, and you're not very capable. It's quite a contrast from Space Dragon when you're blowing stuff up. But you need to work your way through this world and figure out why you're even here, and also kind of like build up your power so that you can then take on these overarching enemies that are corrupting the world. So you fly through and you collect things. There's collection mechanics. There's body swapping mechanics. You get to take your energy and pour it into a golem. That's this big rock creature thing. And then you control the big rock creature thing, and you can smash crystals and solve puzzles, direct flight. A lot of cool mechanics going on there. We have a really killer video for that. You want to throw that PDP up?
Yeah, I possibly get it onto the screen as well.
No. I'm looking for the
There's some comment, yeah.
Sorry about that. There we go. Hang on. I'm just.
Oh, no worries, no
Give me
worries.
2 seconds.
Yeah,
you want to do Vault of Stars right now?
And a 30-second trailer, so you put either one up, whatever you feels good right now.
Give me a couple seconds.
No problem. There's some nice
It'll be worth
concept
the
art.
wait, right?
It will be. It's a really killer video. That is not my video.
Wake, child. You are the last star. There is a darkness that consumes us, imprisons souls trapped in endless cycles of pain and loss, weakens the barrier, brings the void. Only you can restore
that we can leverage in other spaces. So we also do XR training. Can you go to the next slide, and then it'll be the medical training slide. We have business applications, we have hospitality trainings that we've done. We've also done a massive amount of medical training. We have a partnership with Tucson Medical Center. We're accelerating them. They are the subject matter experts, and we're building applications with them and taking them to market and commercializing with them. Then we've also worked with Culinary Academy in hospitality. Same kind of thing, digital twinning their environments, using these game mechanics to make this stuff super fun and great. And then, more recently, I met XR Workout. And XR Workout is MBR Workout currently. It's under the XR Workout when the right headset comes on. They kind of have that profile for me. They were like that right kind of company that's doing the right stuff, and they have a product, they kind of know where they're going, and they have the right people in place. So we partnered with them, and we're accelerating them. So let's just take a minute and talk about what does it mean, what do I mean when I say that we're going to accelerate them. Can I go to the next slide? Walk up the stage. Whoops. Okay.
That was part of the plan, wasn't it, Carl? Sorry.
Yes.
There's a storm coming, you need second go.
I just have to go and I just go walk around for a second. So the way that we accelerate is we have our core systems libraries, and internally we call this Rocket, and this is going to be a product that we actually kind of put out there in the marketplace. And this is how we build fast. This is our prototyping tools. It's amazing how quickly we can get people onboarded and get them developing in Unity. Unity, everyone knows like Unity, there's so much great stuff out there with Unity. They help you, they got training. But you get in there and you start doing stuff, and then you realize the stuff that's really cool is so much harder. And there's a really hard ramp to get to the cool stuff. And that's what Rocket does for you. Rocket is building that ramp for you so that you can get to the cool stuff faster and not be bogged down with the massive amounts of years that you don't have in XR development. The proprietary production pipeline process. What that really means is we've got all this experience, so we know how to put things together in the right order at the right time. Everything else is experience. Top down visual, we know what that looks like. We know how to find that sort of thing. Amazing environments, fine-tuned spatial interaction. Not everybody who comes from different areas kind of understand like what does spatial even mean when it comes to audio. And like pro tip, it's like if you turn your head and the audio is changing, then it's more spatial. Then you can be in just plain old 2D or even just 3D audio. So there's a lot of layers to this stuff, and I can never expect subject matter experts. Let's say you're a nurse. Let's say that you work in shipping. How are you going to know all this stuff? You can't. You just can't do it. You certainly can never hire a team fast enough for how fast XR is moving right now. So what we're doing is we're putting together these packages of we're accelerating you, we work with you, you use our tools, we train you along the way, then we kick you out of the nest, and you're good to go. You've got your product, you can take it to market. Can you go to the next slide, please? Feed. Right, feeding Seymour, exactly. And this is the part where I identify people that I think are good for accelerating. What do you bring to the table? You're domain expert. Yeah, great. You get credibility, you get some partnerships, you get some customers, relationships. You get some stuff. You've been working on this. Maybe you get some marketing going on. And again, this is why we chose to work with VR Workout is because they had check marks in every one of these categories. They know what they wanted. They've got domain expertise. They already had like a prototype project ready to go. It was in Godot. We're redeveloping this in Unity with their internal team, collaborating with them the entire way. And when it's done, it's pushed out there, they will take over the development, and it will be their baby from here on out. So it's an exciting model. Go to the next slide, please. These are our websites here, and I have a final slide with lots of socials. If anybody fits that profile and they want to talk about getting accelerated, hit me up. That would be super cool. I really want to grow this industry. I want to see everybody out there build amazing experience, then have the best opportunity, best foot forward, and put out really high quality stuff. This is what it's all about. I want to mindset, and I want to have the wow factor with your product.
There's so many people that we probably know, and younger people who are trying to figure out how to get into this industry. So I think it's really great to be able to share that info with them and be able to have there be more on-ramps in education, because it's probably the biggest space, the biggest gap we have. So thank you so much for having that discussion.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yeah, amazing. Okay, so we have next, which is so fitting, right? Because we were just talking about XR workout. Alex Ozzie, would you like to come up and introduce yourself and go through and tell us a little bit about XR workout and yourself? Welcome.
I like to start my talks with a clap. That's the only button that I remembered. Can everyone hear me well? Is my audio okay? Okay, cool. So Alex from the VR Workout, the company is called XR Workout, that's sort of forward-looking, but we're trading as and operating as VR Workout. So this current paradigm. And big thanks to Robin for inviting me here and for holding our hands. I met her for the first time in one of our Oculus software vendor masterminds, and she came in and just blew me away with her, industry knowledge and history and everything. And then months go by and we end up being partners and collaborators and everything. So big thanks to you. I wave in your general direction. And VR Workout, I'd like to start the conversation. I'd like to start conversations about VR Workout by saying we do not consider ourselves to be a VR app or a game. We consider ourselves to be a movement, a community that is driving the future of fitness and enabling happier, healthier, longer lives. And I share Chris Milk, the founder of Supernaturals. This just came across my radar because of the FTC blocking the Supernatural acquisition. But he said fitness is killer apps of XR or VR. I'm super aligned with that thought. And so that's what we're here to do. We're here to sort of make sure that this technology creates a utopian versus dystopian future. Helping people become stronger, live longer, be more connected with each other. We're a multiplayer first experience with a single player option. That's how I like to position it. And should I go to the videos now?
Sure, sounds good.
So let me interrupt you for a second, Alex. You give me a lot of videos, so I'm going to try and get them in order. They're going to come on the center screen in the live stream.
Yeah,
is there someone who's got a microphone on for Bella that can mute? Besides Alex? Thank you.
I'll mute.
No, Alex, you should be fine, but if there's anyone else with their microphone open, that should be closed. Okay, so I will try to go through your videos. Like I said, there's a lot of them here, so I'll go to the first one now. First one's a failure project. Let's try the second one.
I hope they're not all private. We might want to, they should have been uploaded as unlisted, but I sent them as driveys, as drive links to be downloaded and uploaded. So whoever needs to log into the right Google account, or I can send the collection in the chat. Maybe that'll get picked up.
Give me just a second.
That would be better than on your side, Matt, you can pick up that.
Okay.
On that side.
Sorry, give me 1 second. We're gonna have to do try to get some magic here.
You could also hit his link.
I just shared.
Caroline, can you move the room, please?
Yes.
Second.
Doesn't look like that's the thing, huh?
Just a second, guys, we're getting there, we need a couple seconds.
Okay, thanks, Matt.
Well, while we're waiting for that, I can tell you that we have, what makes VR Workout special, and this is what the videos are going to show. Oh, that was our trailer, audio at least. Well, we have several kind of technical advantages right now. The main one is that we are hand tracking based, i.e. controller free. So you put down your controllers, you use the hand tracking, and here we go. This is the trailer, let's go. Thank you. So that was we do push-ups and burpees in the headset. And that there is because we're controller free, so it's hand tracking based. That's one of our main innovations and USBs. Since the 2 years ago when we launched until now, no one's really done it. And what I'd like to do is go through. Let's go through the second video. Not number 2. Let's go to number 3. So I'm going to skip the sort of like second video. Can you play number 3? By any chance? Okay. Okay. So let's hear it showing the controller free. Carlos, when you do a push-up, you can't do a push-up with a controller in your hand. Let's go to number 4. Augmented reality or pass-through mode, looking towards the future when AR is the main paradigm. I'm kind of a subscriber to that. I think VR is going to have some more limited use case than AR, and so we're already running that. You can download it today and enable AR pass-through mode in the environment section. Next video. Were there many people doing this as well, by the way? That was dynamic difficulty based on your heart rate through your Apple Watch or Polar heart strap. With only people doing dynamic difficulty, so you choose your target heart rate. As you're exceeding it, it slows down, and when you're lower, it speeds it up. That's real-time biofeedback. Next video, Maestro. Yay, multiplayer where you can chat with your workout buddies and hear each other panting. It's kind of weird, but it's a really cool way to have a business meeting or catch up with a friend in a kind of healthy experience together, and that's why I'm saying we're multiplayer first. We're really driving that human connection element of it. Next bit. Custom avatars. We've implemented Ready Play Me. We're the only fitness game that I'm aware of that has custom avatars. And Ready Play Me seems like a pretty awesome solution for avatars right now, the state of the art. So you can express yourself and have your own identity. just like me with my red hair. Robin is my #1 fan. Anything else? I think there's one more. Yeah, so we have your own music. You can upload your MP3s into the Oculus or use YouTube playlists. We're the only people kind of doing custom music. Oh, sorry, there's Power Beats doing custom music. Aside from that, I believe we're the only ones doing custom music right now. And there should be one more. This is only the beginning. Okay, so that was full body tracking. We have slime VR trackers and phone camera tracking. And you know, like I did want to sort of share the what makes us different, what's special about VR workout. But my main kind of call to action from this talk here is if you have any interest in being involved in something with like major human impact potential, please do connect with me on LinkedIn, or I guess that's the best channel, because I'm really trying to like assemble all hands on deck for this kind of mission. It's really, really like I'm dedicating my career to it, and so please join me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alex. That was incredible. I'm out myself. That's incredible.
Everyone, it's free on App Lab. It's free on App Lab. Just search VR workout, one word.
Okay, excellent. Hope everybody got that. And I know that we'll have some links, and I'm sure we normally would have those here in the chat. And I'd like to now just thank everybody on this end, and I'd like to turn it over to Matt. Matt, did you want to take it from here?
Got it with our last presenter, our last minute presenter. Thank you again for agreeing to do this. Ashlyn, you want to join me on stage? I'll give you your microphone here.
Hello everyone. I have no slides. I'm going to vibe with the universe for the next 5 to 7 minutes. Please bear with me. But a little bit about me. Hello, I'm Ashlyn Sparrow. I'm the Assistant Director of the Weston Game Lab at the University of Chicago. We're a relatively brand new space. We were open for 1 year. The pandemic shut us down for 2. We're back open, so we're basically only 2 years old, but we've been around for about 4 years now. I am a game designer. I work with faculty and staff and students, and I teach them game design. We have a VR space in the lab. Our favorite game is Beat Saber, of course. We're super hot. But I really work at the intersection of games and culture. And so I'm going to be the person to kind of describe, maybe some of the things that we should all continue to look out for when it comes to technology, and also some of the possibility spaces that are out there. I'll start by saying I'm not originally from Chicago. I'm originally from rural Pennsylvania, and when I came here for the first time, my job was actually to work with high school students, Black and brown students, on the south and west sides of Chicago to teach them game design. And what I learned actually by coming to Chicago is that there's really 2 versions of Chicago. So there's the thing that we see in the loop, and then there's a lot of disparity around here. So again, that's my intersection. That's where I'm coming from when it comes to VR. And as much as I love it, I won't classify myself as a skeptic. I'm actually on the bandwagon of VR. But I am on the bandwagon of, hey everyone, we have a bunch of technologists who are doing something awesome and are at the cutting edge. And we're moving really fast. And maybe we should slow down a little bit to think about who might be left behind and who we might need to include in the conversation as we design these experiences. The first kind of thing that I'll grab at is when we talk about VR as like an empathy mission. I'm actually going to take that one first because that is the one that is the bane of my existence, mainly because it becomes the question of who benefits from the empathy. Is it the people who actually need said empathy? Do the people who are the most marginalized in our communities actually want your empathy? Or do they actually want justice? Do they want being treated equitably? Do they want vindication? Do they want resources and dollars to actually help solve the problem? Or do they want a VR experience that will talk about how policing is bad in Chicago? Or how gang violence is bad? Or, oh, it's really hard to be a Syrian refugee? These are my questions that I have. I only am bringing philosophical questions to people, nothing more than this. And so, as you all continue to push forward VR, as you continue at VR, XR, AR, always ask the question, who is actually benefiting from this? Because maybe there's a possibility that you, as a developer, are actually centering yourself in the thing that you're actually trying to solve. And so how might we incorporate the people you want to attempt to build empathy for in the experience? I love the fact that there are a bunch of people here doing like XR women, like that's amazing, right? Because technology as an industry has a dearth of representation, whether that's in terms of race or gender or orientation or whatever have you, ableness, right? When I think about VR experiences and how it is not helpful for all the different types of abilities that we have, how might we start to think about the people at the edge, right? How might we think of different interfaces? How might we think of different experiences, right? And so those are the first thing I want to talk about is just empathy, or is it actually appropriation? Is it actually helpful? And I want to pose that philosophical question to you all as designers. I don't know how we solve it, but I need us to slow down and think about it. Because yes, it's cool that we have new resolution in all these VR equipment, or there are these new cool, super awesome game experiences, more pixels, more particle effects. Yes, that's great, I love that. Like wearing a Fallout shirt, like absolutely. Like I support that. But when I think about people who look like me, or people who talk about, I want to go into the game industry, what about them, right? Think about them. The second thing I'll say is thinking about, again, diversity, equity, inclusion. How might we think about getting more people who do not look like the majority of the people in this room into this conversation? How do we actually do it? VR is somewhat expensive. Things have gotten cheaper over time, but it's still pretty expensive. It's still hard to kind of get into. So what are the programs? What are the possibilities? What are the teaching mechanisms to help people get into this? I actually love that Bundle AR is here. The fact that we can actually start to make entering into making these VR AR experiences easier to achieve, right? Because one thing about game development, and I tend to work in Unity primarily, but Unity is now easier to use more than ever. Video games have become more democratized because of the openness of all the tools that are there. So how might we start to design more tools so that people, again, who don't know anything about coding, can actually be the people to start making these experiences, which will then lead us to new story-based experiences. A lot of the experiences that I've seen focus heavily on mechanics. And I love mechanics. Again, hardcore gamer nerd. But what about the stories, the things that ground us as humans, the things that we all know as humans? How might we tell stories, new experiences in VR? Those are my questions. But I started off on like a kind of sad note, downer note, because I like to start with the bad news, but I actually think that there's a lot of potential when it comes to AR, VR, and XR. I think that it is a way for us to be immersed in a new reality. I think we focus on virtual reality, but I would like to use the word of unreality. This world is so chaotic and sometimes miserable, but there's still so much joy to it. But we can also create newer, crazier, weirder experiences. We don't have to go towards reality. We can go towards unreality. We can actually use our imaginations to do weirder, stranger things. How might we also start to use other senses in VR? I know that back in the day we were like, you have this whole smell-o-vision thing, but like, I work with undergraduates, graduate students in human-computer interaction. This grad student's name is Jazz Brooks, and they're interested in bringing back smell into VR. What does that look like? What does that smell like? Right? What do any of these things smell like? How does that actually augment our experiences? Right? Why must we only focus on the visual and what we hear, but how do we start to focus on touch? How do we start to focus on smell? How might we actually utilize the rooms? And I know that a lot of experiences are utilizing rooms, but how might we actually move room to another. You can do weird things in VR by looping rooms and connecting them together. Why can't I stand in a square and keep walking continuously in a space and move to a new world? If we start to think about all of the crazier things, forget about reality. Forget about reality. Let's focus on the weird. Let's make art. Let's make stories. Let's try and break things so that we can then make new experiences. That is my piece for now. I'll end it there, and you can all ask me whatever questions, because every time I talk to people who are into VR, they're like, what is going on? I'm like, I'm sorry, but I'm here, and we can ask questions. Thank you.
And I would say don't go anywhere, and because we're getting to the Q&A portion, so August, want to come back up here, please? All right, so this is the one part that I will say, we're going to try and figure out how this works, because we are potentially getting Q&A from 3 different venues here. So we have questions that can come from the live audience, we have questions that can come from the virtual audience, and we actually have people have the ability to ask us questions from Facebook Live. So Tom, I'm going to be watching you for Facebook Live questions if you have any. Ben, if you would please see Tom grab the microphone, because ultimately nobody can hear anything unless it comes through the microphone. We have a microphone, so if you're in the room and you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. Ben will come to you, he'll hand you the microphone, you will raise your hand. At that point, ask your question, Ben will take back the microphone. You can direct it at one of the people who's already presented, or just ask the group. In the room, Caroline, unfortunately I cannot see the audience, and I've got kind of the visualization turned off, so do me a favor, and if you have people with hands raised in the room, just raise your hand. Because I think if you raise your hand, Caroline, I can see it.
Happy to do that, Matt, no problem.
Excellent. We do have a question in the back of the room. What if I see Ben, you got the switch flipped up? Try talking to me. You got a question? Back of the room, very, very back. And we're going to try and limit questions to 1 minute of question time, so not 2 explanations, please. Okay.
I've been experienced with the .coms and the .cas. I've never seen a .io. Can someone explain to me what a .io is?
I can TLDs in my role.
Yeah, so I think the microphone's battery's on. .io is basically just another top-level domain. It actually stands for Integration.
Input, output.
Oh, input, output.
Yeah, usually that's what it stands for.
.io.
.io, yeah.
.io TLD is actually .Indian Ocean.
Oh,
But that's actually what it came from. That's the domain.
I mean,
The new meme
It's a
is
country called-
input and output.
The meme is input output, but the original top level domain was, because TLDs, two-digit TLDs were always country codes, so .ar, which is a top level domain, is actually Argentina. But a lot of people are currently registering their domains in Argentina because it's .ar. .io, which a lot of people are using for any sort of input-output computer-based programming, is actually Indian Ocean. But it's just a top level domain. Do you have questions in the room, Caroline? I'm going to keep looking back towards you.
I think, don't have any right now unless we have any from our panelists.
Somebody took control of the center screen, sorry. Tom, can you grab the center screen of Rolla or Chris? We've lost the camera feed there. Actually, you can't do it. It's the computer over there. Sorry, give me a moment, please.
We got games, step right up, step right up.
why don't VR experiences have legs? Like, why don't we have legs? Like,
Legs are not
the
legs.
innovation would be to put legs in VR.
Yeah,
That's,
that would be an innovation.
Yeah.
It's difficult to do the
oh,
in-person kinematics
absolutely.
on legs.
But,
Yeah,
just throw it on.
and elbows.
And elbows.
Elbows too.
This is why I'm not a 3D modeler or an animator.
Right.
This is why I'm a game designer and a programmer.
So on her question though,
Can you translate for that for everybody here, Matt? Because we heard some of that, what you guys just said, but a little bit was lost.
You guys have been talking, you guys have.
Sorry, there were guys on the stage who were just talking. Your camera should come back in just a moment here. Sorry about that. Apparently someone in the room grabbed the screen and took control of it. I'm hoping it's come back to the webcam any moment.
We're all
We
good.
see you now. We see you now.
Hey, we're back.
Alright.
We have a question in the front of the room live here.
is there anybody working with a hardware developer, so similar to like the Quest or anything like that, if you want to add legs, you would need some sort of haptic or, you know, some sort of suit or something that you could, or a sensor or something like that. So is there anybody working with hardware developers to put into software like this?
VR chat, I know, has a lot of support for a lot of different hardware devices.
We are as well. We're trying to figure that one out.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is just another interface layer. Anything that is hardware can be translated to like how am I interacting with the world spatially. So if I'm using my hands with the controllers, I could be using my hands with gloves. You know, it's just how do I map that is that piece of code that needs to be either written or discovered. And in which case, a lot of the stuff's already done. A lot of the hardware manufacturers provide you the initial SDKs. What you do is you go in and then you build your interface to that. How does it you want to apply your gamer experience to that piece of hardware so that they work together seamlessly?
All right, so again, to keep people from over talking on each other, Patrick, just so you're aware, can you actually, do you mind standing, Patrick, and going over by Robin and Alex? That's actually Alex. Can you stand and go over there because I can't see you? There we go, now I see you, we're good. So what I'm going to ask you to do is in Rebella, if you're going to answer before you open your mic and talk, please raise your hand. I'll call on you. Same thing for in the room, just so we don't have people over talking, because I know there is about a 2-second delay, or maybe about a 1-second delay between Rebella and here. So that said, just real quick to jump in on the answer there too. One of the biggest comments early on with virtual reality, particularly with motion sickness, was the concept of people effectively seeing fake legs and their brains seeing them move. And so one of the first sort of easy solutions to get rid of that was to eliminate legs. So that solved a lot of avatar motion sickness issues because effectively your body knows that your legs aren't moving, but the avatar is showing you moving and it would make you sick. Now, the other problem you start to realize if you're going to put in physical legs that are actually matching your physical world, because you could do things like body tracking now, but the problem with that is, okay, well, if you want to run in VR, that means you've got to run in the physical world too. If you're in a small play space, it's kind of hard to do, and you don't have like a universal treadmill where you can run or move in any direction, which very few people have. So these are things that definitely like manufacturers have thought of. It's kind of hard to implement, and ultimately, even if you do implement it, you have to have workarounds. Because again, if you build something for like a universal treadmill, you have to have a workaround for everybody who doesn't have a universal treadmill. You look like you're going to add something.
Well, there's a company called, I think it's called Move.ai, and correct me if I'm wrong, where they can extract animation data from just a video, and that can be a live webcam. And as long as you give them a full body shot of your, in the camera, it can translate that into a live animation that you can use in video games. And I think it's something really interesting, especially for the metaverse or in VR applications, because it is difficult to get your full body tracking in there. I mean, you can strap $5 to your feet. You can buy a perception neuron or Rococo motion capture suit or something like that. But this Move.ai, I think they have an interesting solution to that, because everyone's got a webcam.
Caroline, you moved off camera so I can't see you anymore. Robin looks like she has something to say. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, to add to that is that people are going to start using mirrors as well, because that'll help avoid the whole distance problem of you trying to like put your camera like 6 feet away to get the full body in. If you use a mirror, then you could be up close and personal with it and do things like get that tracking. That is still not going to solve the problems with motion sickness. We just got to have better headsets. I mean, that's what it comes down to. We need better frame rate. We need it to be incredibly performant. In the meantime, we're all cheating. We're onboarding people slowly to get them habituated to the environment, to kind of get them over their hurdle. We even give people ginger candy because that does help reduce motion sickness. It's well known in the pregnancy women world. But ultimately, when I have phobia rendering, when I have the light the right way, a lot of these things are going to really help to kind of divergence problem. We're going to start fine-tuning the brain to be looking at what I'm looking at. Then you're going to get over it a little better. But you're still going to have if I'm trying to run, I got to use a joystick or something like that. and there's still gonna be a little bit of disconnect.
Excellent. Caroline, can you move stage right a bit? I see the hand in the space. Go ahead and call on your person in Bravilla, Caroline.
Yes, and David Page wanted to ask a question. David, did you want to go ahead? You may be muted. Not sure, David, if you still have a question. I'm not sure, we don't have any audio from you, but I can ask the question. I know that David had asked how many people on your game dev teams, or how many work on a typical project at a time. And then he also has a question, but we can start with that one.
I'm going to go through that seems like a question for every one of the presenters, so I'm going to call you guys out one at a time, starting with Patrick.
So our team, we're 4 full-time people. That includes 3 engineers, a sort of product manager, UX UI designer, and then we also have a team of 3D artists that are kind of ramped up and mapped down. That's sort of an extension of the team. So that's us. And on a typical project, it's usually, depending on the project, it's 2 to 3, sometimes 3 to 4 people.
And Robin.
So we have about 17 people working for us, and then there's an extension team where there's a whole lot more. Like, I don't need a concept artist every day. I need a concept artist for this project. I need a specific type of concept artist for this product, that sort of thing. So we want to grow people as their skills fit. The core team, we're talking about like building one VR project. Generally, it's between 3 and 5 people at a time. So that means that shifts throughout the production pipeline process. Like a developer might be on the project for a little while, but then he sort of fades away to the background, and you move into the implementation phase, and then those types of people, the artists get more involved, the implementers get more involved. So it changes strategically as you move through the pipeline process, and you get into like QA and finalizing and visual effects. So there's a whole lot of people that do a lot of work in these projects, and what's happening right now in XR is very few people on a team take on a whole lot of different skill sets, and as your team grows, you start to spread out those skill sets into more refined, I like visual effects, or I like sound design, and then they become part of that production pipeline process.
And Alex.
Check, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Yes, we can.
So the question is about team structure?
Just in general about how big is your team?
Right, how big is your
Team,
team?
like, the core company right now is like 6 people. And then we have a undisclosed number of people working on the project from XR, from Toontown Games. Which I think is like 4 or 5 people, Robin? Including you or not including you?
Yeah, right now there's at least 6 people working on the project from our side, yeah.
Including you?
Including me, yeah.
Okay, yeah, so that's how we're gonna keep it until our Series A. So this is like the seed stage. So we're being, like a bit careful on the salary burn until we hit the Series A.
Excellent. And
Sure. We've got about, let's see, I've got a blockchain developer, I've got an API developer, I've got a network engineer for Unreal Engine, I've got 3 artists, I'm kind of a programmer and an artist, and then we have a whole marketing team, and we have a whole sales team, and what else am I forgetting? Oh, I just hired a level designer from Spain. I'm very excited about it.
ballpark 12?
Yeah, let's say 12. That's a number.
Excellent. I'm looking for hands up in the physical room. Oh, we got a couple here up front, please. I think she was first. Ben, front of the room, pink hair.
So I have, I guess, a philosophical question. I guess in your work, in all of your works, how does VR address disparity and/or a sense of security? And if yes to either of those, how so?
At this point, I'm looking for my presenters to raise hands in the order they want to answer that.
Do we start with Bella?
Yeah, sure. I just want to see, if I see hands go up, I'll just call them out. Do the Rebel people know how to raise their hands? I see Patrick's talking. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, to repeat the question.
Oh, repeat the question? Sorry, I'm trying to make sure I didn't have the room muted. I didn't think I did. Go ahead.
I answer to that one. Disparity?
Sorry, Alex, give me 1 second. Who's going to repeat the question, and then we'll go to you.
So my question was, in your work, how do you use VR to address disparity and/or create a sense of security? And if yes to either of those, how so?
Go ahead, Alex.
I have a thought about that. And this is for discussion, this is just a personal theory that I'm brewing, but if you look at the kind of the developed world, put that on the side, put the developing world on the other side, these days, smartphone penetration is pretty well penetrated. And the VR headset, okay, I've just gone up $100 yesterday or the day before or something, from like $300 to $400. So the loss leader pricing is gone, but like, you know, that there is kind of affordable in, you know, like not in like, you know, right on the poverty line kind of places, but for most of the global population. And I think it will get cheaper and everything. I don't know how Apple keeps on managing its phones more expensive, but VR is like, you know, starting at a $300 price point, that's quite accessible. You know, that's kind of like a monthly salary in like a lot of the developing world. It's kind of like an investment and that kind of thing. So I think it's quite accessible. Well, what do you guys think? That's just a theory I'm percolating on.
It looks like Caroline wants to chime in.
I was going to just chime in, and I think I do love the idea of thinking more about the accessibility of the technology. I got the sense, though, that the question comes a little bit more around how do you design with the person to be inclusive in mind. And I did want to mention that I have to figure it out, but I'm going to find out who built it. There is a embodiment experience that someone can do, and somebody in XR Women presented about it, where you, one person, you can be someone who, you actually become that person with that disability. It's remarkable, and I'm going to figure out who built it, but I just wanted to say that I love that idea, and Alex, I'd love to hear you know, how that translates in your design thinking. And maybe I have interpreted the question incorrectly, but I have the sense also.
I'm going to actually let Robin get on this really quickly. Go ahead, Robin.
Yeah, and I hope I'm getting the right angle on this too, but I thought it was kind of more about the, you know, like how is it from a disability or accessibility standpoint, are we designing our applications to accommodate more users? That is generally a question that we get, and you know, we are peeling back that onion. Like when we're doing a game, we make sure that everything has subtitles. You can read it. If you have audio processing issues, if you just can't hear it all, you should still be able to play our games. We try really hard to make sure touching a rack, grab things whenever possible. You could do it one-handed if you needed to, or maybe you could use one button on one hand, but the other hand has to be a little more dexterous. You know, there's like so much you can do with the control space that we're in right now, but the first step is to really be conscious about, you know, what are the different groups of diversity. Diversity includes accessibility. So it's not just about that you put your hands up and you have to work a color hand. It's also thinking about the entire stack. Am I in a wheelchair? Do I have the function of both my arms? Can I move my shoulders? There's a lot of people on the spectrum in a lot of different ways. It's not possible for us today to consider all of these cases, which is the way that the websites are moving now with standards. We'll get there, but first we just have to take a few bites out of these apples and just try to get something out there and try to lean into those communities and reach out to those communities and ask for their feedback.
And so one of the things, I'm just going to point you to a couple of resources really quickly. So one of the things, and this was your topic, so I want to end with you on this one really quickly. But before we get there, because she brought this up, and between diversity, inclusion, accessibility, all these features, the one thing I will say about the VR and AR community, kind of in general, that I've seen, I've been a developer for 20 plus years. This is a topic that's at the forefront. There are groups like the OpenXR initiative. There's a whole working group that they look at diversity, inclusion, accessibility, like that. They want to make sure that it is available for these technologies. One of the biggest things that often gets missed is the fact that you can use these technologies in a lot of cases as a solution for some of those issues. So where we talk about, I guess you wrote out, well, okay, if you have a VR game and it's made for using your hands, but if somebody only has one hand, how do you do that? But then you can also think about the fact, okay, but somebody who's wheelchair bound can climb Everest in a VR experience. So it's a bit of a trade-off. Yes, it's going to be very hard for somebody blind to experience visual-based virtual reality, but spatial audio helps a lot. So, the one thing I'll say, like I said, just in general as a point, XR Safety Initiative, again, is another one. It's called XRSI, it's Cognitive Groans Group. They're not just thinking about safety. Like this is, social responsibility, social pressure, things like that. Like that's a big topic on theirs, as well as accessibility, diversity, inclusion within, again, everything from the hardware development up to the software development, up to the sensors, all the way through the experiences themselves.
I love this question. I'm really glad to hear everyone's responses to this and how they're interpreting this question. It's really good. I'll say at my lab, there's a couple of ways that we kind of think through this. The great thing is that I work with a bunch of academics, and so this is the thing that they're always trying to do. The bad thing is academics are sometimes myopic, and it's oh God, we need to actually just make the project happen. But two examples. So the first one, in the ways in which we use our VR hub, is actually by partnering with the medical center. There are a bunch of neuroscientists and individuals who are using VR to help rehabilitate patients' arms. And so there are people in the lab who are working, I think a patient either had a stroke or something's going on with their arms. And so some of our students are actually working just to create, just to be able to use the motion controls and play a simple game of Pac-Man, to just have her raise her arm up and control Pac-Man and move through the maze. It's a very simple experience. It's not super innovative as a game, but the use of VR and the fact that you can track these controllers is fantastic and is a great way of saying, here is a problem, and there is a tech solution to start helping with the physical nature of that, right? And so then it's moving outside of kind of the typical game-based experience and say, hey, here's a real-world problem that this technology can actually help solve. And so that's one way that my lab focuses on that. The second way, and this is a part of another group that I'm part of at UChicago called the Forecast Lab, we create transmedia experiences. And we look at what is a huge popular medium, and one thing is live streaming and Twitch. And so what we've decided to do is kind of take an AR, XR approach and use Twitch as a means to have people interact with a long-form narrative. But we think very critically about what do we want our players to do. We want them to start thinking about climate change. Huge problem, but there's so many different ways that you can get into that. But the way that we do this is through a speculative design story. So we use real actors, we have real sets, we're taking our cameras and live streaming this, and we are overlaying things on the screen. Things that only our players can see that the actors can't, to have them start collaborating and communicating about problems, to start building community about the fact that you can solve problems, to then throw larger problems like, so this climate change thing, you're not a scientist, but how would you go about solving it? You could solve it through art and trying to get people to be aware that this is a problem. You can use scientific means. We attached it to a larger design challenge, so we moved people from this digital game experience into the real world to actually try and implement the problems. Because in the lab, as much as I love games and as much as I love technology, technology is a tool to help us solve problems in the world. But anything that we want, we're going to have to cultivate it. We're going to have to design it. And so how might we take these players and move them into the real world to actually make change? And that's kind of our process for that.
Thank you very much. And I know we have one more question in the room that I saw, or at least one more. We're kind of running short on time, so we're going to ask answers to go short, questions to go short. I'm going to read the one that came in from Facebook. I'm not going to read the whole question, I'm going to summarize it because it's a pretty long one, but ultimately I think this is a relatively easy answer too, which is sort of what do we need to be able to have kind of a game environment that mixes, frankly, virtual, physical, and 2D video worlds so that we can sort of interact with each other, learning, studying, working together, no matter what real environment it is. And I'm pretty much just going to go with, I think the answer to that is something similar to Verbella or Allspace or VR Chat, or these environments that you can, Allspace is a good example. I don't know if Allspace can still be accessed from the web. It used to be able to be accessible from the web, but that's a tool that you can have a desktop application for, you can have web access to it, you can get into it in VR, so it's very easy to get into. And we had business meetings in there, we've had social gatherings in there, there's definitely a lot of learning done on those virtual classes that take place in that virtual entertainment. So, I guess sort of without jumping too much further into this question, I think the answer is in a lot of these virtual worlds that you see, and I see Patrick wants to answer, so go ahead, Patrick.
I think what is the question is sort of the holy grail that, the AR and XR communities have been chasing since inception. I think this Rebella actually is great for bringing virtual and the real world together, but we're kind of looking at each other through a pane of glass. I think ultimately, we're waiting for what we've always been waiting for, which is really, really high quality, excellent AR glasses, so that when you look to your right, you see my avatar actually next to you or in proximity to you. When I'm participating virtually, I see a representation of you in the real world. So we're actually in a shared, co-located space, and I think we're, obviously still a ways off from that. But yeah, definitely environments like this are a great stepping stone, and it helps us experiment and understand what the limitations are, where we can do better. So that's what I'd say about that.
Excellent. Question in the center of the physical room.
Yeah, so this kind of dovetails a little bit with what you all were talking about, but when you think about the biggest barriers of entry, either from a developer perspective or from a consumer perspective to XR, what is your kind of take on that? I think we've heard a little bit about education. I think Caroline was saying about that.
I'm looking for raised hands on this one. I know we talked about this a little bit already, but I can see August station to answer also.
Yeah, I can BS my way through that answer. In terms of accessibility for VR, there's a lot of hurdles to jump over to get into VR or AR, right? There's the hardware that you have to buy. The hardware that you do buy is uncomfortable to wear. It's not everyone can wear it. Some people have big hair and don't want to mess up their hair. Yeah. I remember in the early days of VR, I'd go to conventions and, we'd be showing the latest, greatest, coolest technology, and a lot of people were really hesitant to try it just because they didn't want to mess up their hair. That sounds like a trivial thing, but it runs the gamut from all sorts of things like that. So it's not comfortable sometimes. They did I don't remember what the study was or who did it. It might have been Facebook, who did a study of people working in VR 8 hours a day for weeks on end, and just to see if they could do that. And a lot of people reported anxiety, fatigue. It's just not fun wearing a VR headset for 8 hours a day. So this future of everyone's going to be in VR and it's going to be great. I don't know. It's not. That's not the way it's panning out for me.
Yeah, I mean, so really quick, I'm going to jump in. I don't see hands up, so I'm going to answer. In terms of the difficulty from a development perspective, to get into developing, it's frankly, if you want to develop augmented reality apps or virtual reality apps, you've got to understand about 4 different stacks of programming to be able to do it. You've got to understand the hardware limitations, you've got to understand the coding languages that you're working with, you've got to understand the IDE that you might be working with, whether it's on Unity or Unreal, or if you're not using one of those engines. So it can be difficult to get to. It's really cool to see, frankly, my company, by the way, we have an augmented reality tool that makes it drag and drop so people can publish AR. You are not going to build Epic Marble using our platform. Okay, it's got its limitations. But at the same time, you can do a lot of AR work in that platform. So there's definitely tools that are making it easier, but ultimately, yes, if you want to start getting to the point where you're doing the really cutting edge technology, well, you've got to be a full-scale developer who understands the limits of the technology. And there's definitely a barrier there. I'll go with the fact of the people I know who are developers here. Most of us are self-taught. There is not a lot of, the other cool thing about working on edge technology is there's really not a whole lot of formal education around it. You're learning it as you go. The technology is developing as you're developing it. So you do kind of have to have the ability to self-teach. On the consumer side, much to what August said, yeah, there's comfort issues. There's definitely cost issues. I will say the hardware does seem to be getting a lot cheaper and a lot more accessible from that perspective, but frankly, sometimes there's supply issues as well. Even if you do have the money to get the stuff, you just can't get it. I see a couple of hands up in the space, so please, guys, let's go, kind of go quickly so I can get, there's 2 more questions I know about, and we're about 2 minutes out from the end of the event. So, Caroline.
Yeah, I will just quickly say too that I think a little bit of a plug for what Robin is doing is that just like in blockchain, so in blockchain development, it really was that solidity, it has been the more primary mechanism by which people build the blockchain solutions, and now there are people who are building entire platforms that don't require that full-fledged solidity programming. And that doesn't necessarily mean that it's 100% there, but there are, I think that will probably happen as things go forward, as there will be more ability for there to be building happening. I know that in our group, Julie Smithson has their, is a WebXR platform. You don't need to have programming skills to be able to utilize their work. So, and I know that Robin, that you have a whole bunch of things that you've already built that makes it much easier. So I think one of the hardest things, truly, is people's comfort zones. It's just being able to say yes, and also being able to know where are the free learning programs, certifications, various different things. Even though we all learn on the fly and YouTube is amazing, there are actually, like even as I know you mentioned, XR Security, Copy Programs Group has offered a scholarship program for students who want to learn. So there are learning opportunities out there, but I think so much of it is being able to say yes, and that takes a lot for people even just to try VR. I don't know what other people do.
All right, Robin, go for it.
Yeah, and I'll wrap it up quickly and just say this is who we are in the technology adoption curve, and we're going to all meet in the middle. Right now, you can do Verbella on a VR headset. I'm not doing it because it's not that great in VR. It just, the definition's not there, the quality's not there, the movement system isn't there. But it's kind of fun to do it on the web, and so I don't mind doing it on the web. It's still no replacement for even a Zoom meeting that's a lot faster to even onboard people than this. And next year it'll be different, and the year after that it'll be more different. And then in 5 years you're going to reflect back on this moment in this conference, and you're going to be like sitting there with your augmented reality headset, having a meeting with somebody that's a little avatar that's right there in the space with you, going, wow, I guess we're here now.
Thank you for that. One more question in the physical room. Did you have a question too?
I'll just answer later.
All right. So last question.
It's kind of related to some of the questions that have been raised, but Does the technology exist now for multiple people in the same room to interact with the same AR experience? And if so, who do you think is doing the best job of that?
There's a hand I expect to go up in the virtual space in a second, so I'm gonna watch to see how long it takes Patrick to raise his hand.
Yeah, just a real quick, repeat the question, I didn't catch the full.
He's asking about augmented reality multi-presence.
What is the question? Just what is?
How long, what tools are capable and available now?
Oh, how long? I mean, there are definitely companies doing it now, because it's called Space, there's one called Space XR, there's Campfire, another one, where they're doing that co-located virtual presence, and it's a hardware and software solution. I think it's still a ways off, just mostly because the headsets, are expensive. Not everyone's going to shell out, $3,000, $4,000 for a HoloLens, and still, or even they're just, yeah. I think it's, I think the standard answer is 5 years when it comes to these things, but it's always sooner than you think. What's it say? It takes.
You can do longer, much less than you think in 1 year, and much more than you think in 5.
Right. That's the one. Yeah, exactly. So, it's all going to kind of happen all at once. We're kind of like on a hockey stick curve, I think. But I think the big gating thing is accessible hardware. I think the networking issues have been solved, a lot of them. There's still a lot of UI, UX, and human issues that still need to be solved, just because there haven't been as many hours of that type of experience happening, right? Because of the limitations. So there's a lot of work that still needs to be happening in the lab to what are the best representations of your avatar, and how real do you need to be? But yeah, it's all coming. It's all coming for sure.
I'm going to add this one really quick, and I'm going to end it because we're already over time. And I do want to give everybody a chance to kind of do one little last thought. There's tools for it. There are tools for this. There's a lot of tools for this. The biggest problem that you're running into with it right now is hardware. Augmented reality, frankly, really powerful augmented reality consumer-grade glasses are not on the market yet. And Frank, that is one thing that you need for that to work really well. Now, there are things coming. There's all sorts of rumors about what Facebook Meta, whatever it's called, Cambria. Their device is going to have pass-through augmented reality, which is, in theory, going to be very capable of doing stuff like that. And I think one of the tools that Patrick was trying to invent was stumbling out of Spatial, which is a company that was really doing a lot of telepresence work.
Spatial, that was the one. Thank you.
And they actually switched their focus and are now doing a lot of stuff related to NFTs, and they're not really doing the co-working stuff because, well, it's hard, and once people started realizing what it actually takes, it wasn't the greatest experience. I mean, I actually thought Spatial was really cool. Viveport has a solution for this. There's a lot of people working on it. When is it going to happen? Who knows, frankly. But there definitely are a lot of people working on it. That is one of sort of the holy grails that you see quite a bit. With that, we're over time, so I'm going to say thank you to our virtual presenters. Thank you to our live presenters. Caroline, did you want to do 1 or 2 minute closing remarks at all?
Sure. Well, I did want to say that I guess I've got this, as what often happens with these kinds of events, is I have so many more questions than when I started. So I just encourage everyone to reach out to the panelists, and I will do the same myself. And conversations all tend to happen offline as much as they do online and in virtual spaces. So that's really all I wanted to say, and just if we want to give anyone else here a quick moment to just make another comment, we'd love to hear from you, either from the panelists. Alex, did you want to say something?
No, just wanted to express some gratitude to the organization for putting this on, and everyone who showed up and everything. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you. Robin?
Absolutely. This this is fantastic. Thank you guys for having us, and really appreciate everyone showing up to these events. And get out there and get your project done. Just get started. Start somewhere. Do something. Be part of this. This is it's just such a great atmosphere. The entire VR community, XR community, person community is amazing. Join us.
Patrick, I'm going to ask you to hold for a second.
Whoa.
In person here, Ashley.
Thank you all so much for joining me today and letting me throw out these philosophical questions at you with no answers. Just gonna figure it out together.
And August, thank you for that.
Thanks everyone for coming out. It's amazing. Thank you, Matt, for having the first in-person event in 2 years too. That's huge. Everyone is invited to come if you want to check out and see what a metaverse is. You can go online. It's mempo.xyz. mempo.xyz. That's our website. You can create an account. It's free. You can walk around, talk to people all online, and see what it looks like.
I'll make it easy for you guys. So again, you don't have to take notes or anything. These slides will be available on the VR Chicago website. So the stuff that you saw, the games and the links and all that stuff, it's going to be available. VR Chicago, this page for this event will be around, frankly, forever, or at least as long as the organization exists. So the slides will be there, the links to these games and things will be there. Patrick, I'm going to give you a second to say your last word, and then you and I kind of have to make a little bit of an announcement, don't we?
Yes. I just want to second what everyone else said. Thank you for putting this together. I think many things that could have gone wrong didn't, and I thought a lot of it came together swimmingly. I wish I could be there in person. I was going to bring my Tilt 5, so I guess I'll have to promise that for next time. I was going to demo some games we built for that. Yeah, good job, everybody. Really appreciate the content.
All right, thank you. So, Patrick, before you go, one last thing. So, several years ago, before the pandemic, there were kind of a bunch of different AR and VR meetups that were taking place around Chicago. Actually, August used to run one called VR Chicago. Patrick used to run one called AR Chicago initially, and then AWE Night Chicago, which, frankly, these haven't really taken place since the pandemic started. Do you want to say anything about that, Patrick, or should I?
It was basically the pandemic started, and at the time, we were also thinking of taking a small hiatus just because you get burnt out running these things. And the pandemic was kind of timely in a way. But reached out to you while we met up at AR. Well, I'll let you tell that story. But anyway, yes. So the pandemic was pretty much put the kibosh on the meetup for us anyway. And it just as we started coming out of it, I started thinking about maybe putting it back together.
So with that, there's an organization called Augmented World Expo. They kind of throw the biggest augmented reality expo in the world. It takes place in Santa Clara every year. Then I think later this month it's in Shanghai. A couple months from now there's going to be a version of it in Portugal. But they run these satellite events in the cities called AWE Nights. And Patrick was running AWE Night Chicago, and we actually just spoke with Ori, who was the head of Augmented World Expo yesterday or 2 days ago, on Tuesday, so yesterday. And going forward, VR Chicago and the next evolution in particular is partnering and will be co-branded with Augmented World AWE Night Chicago going forward. So we're going to be growing this event quite a bit. Thank you for coming back in person. One more little announcement that goes along with that is the fact that the next evolution, hopefully by the end of this week, will officially also be a 501c3. Because we have always made this event 100% free. It is always educational content. It is here to basically get this stuff out in the community. And that's going to be the mission going forward. So going forward, it will always be free, as it always has been. That's it for our announcements. I'm looking at my last slide, which we normally show all of our socials. So please tag us, follow us on social, join, comment. Chris, you look like you have something to say?
Do you want to mention that it'll be on AWE Live, not Facebook?
Yes, yeah, that's the other thing. So the streaming going forward for all of those watching on Facebook Live is it will be streaming on AWE Live going forward as opposed to Facebook Live from this point forward, or Metal Live, or whatever it's called now. What's that, Tom?
Just kill that slide.
Just kill that slide. Okay, well I'm gonna keep the slide up because it's got our social tags, but ultimately next month I believe our industry topic is hospitality, correct? Yep. We are putting our panel together for that now. I know we have, I believe we already have one panelist potentially.
Bowie and Hennessy.
Yep. Hope to see you here next month. This event is going to be taking place, again, from this point forward, we're going to be, unless some other new pandemic thing comes up, it will be in person and hybrid from this point forward. We will be hosting it at 1871 for at least the remainder of this year. We expect to keep our partnership with 1871 going and growing. So it will always be, unless there's a holiday in the way, on the first Wednesday of the month at approximately this time. Follow us on the social tags that you see here on the slides for any sort of updated news. If you have any questions, if you want to connect with these presenters, first of all, you don't have to leave the room immediately. We can possibly do some more demonstrations, talk with the people here. If you want to talk with the presenters because you didn't want to actually ask a question on a microphone, that's fine too. The networking is one of the biggest reasons to have these events, but I will once again say thank you to our presenters in the virtual space, in the physical space, our virtual host from XR Women, Caroline, our audience in the virtual space, which unfortunately most of us on the screen here can't see, but we do have a separate camera up there that hopefully some people can see it. And we hope to see you all next month. Thank you very much.
Thanks for putting them together. Good job.
Thanks, bye-bye.
And the last thing I want to say for Rebel people is we're about to mute you in the room here, so you guys can go on into your open network.
Cheers. We were gonna do that. I remember when we started talking about
explosive wine.
and then the gender getting
They might be more disruptive than drink in the water.
Oh, Dan, can you give me water?
So I remember.
You switch up to the room.
If you want to talk to someone about it.
What's that? Nice.
Make that thing happen.
Are you the one? No, I can't do that.
At least yeah. We were, it was nice to meet you too. And like, yeah, I'm just like, shit.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tom, you killed the live stream and the record?
Yeah.